Welcome everyone to the Ordinary Council meeting of the 7th of December 2021. Members of the public gallery should note that the Council records and publishes Council meetings via YouTube to enhance the accessibility of Council meetings to the broader Wellington community. These recordings are also archived and may be published on Council's website for viewing by the public or used for publicity or information purposes. At the appropriate times during the meeting, members of the gallery may address the Council, at which time their image, comments or submissions will be recorded. Members of the public who are not in attendance at the Council meeting but who wish to communicate with the Council via the online web form should lodge their questions or comments early in the meeting to ensure that their submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. Please, could gallery visitors and councillors ensure their mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or silent mode for the duration of the meeting? Could we all stand for the acknowledgement of country in prayer? We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai people, and pay respects to their elders past and present. Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the Wellington Shire Council, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. Apologies, I don't believe we have any declarations of conflicts of interest. I have a declaration for item 12.4, which is under section 128 material interest. So I'll excuse myself when we get to item 12.4. Confirmation of minutes of the previous council meeting. Can I have someone to move that? Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the Ordinary Council meeting of 16th of November 2021.
Can I have a seconder? Councillor Ripper. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Happy with that, Councillor Wood?
Yes.
Yep. Item 4, business arising from previous minutes, I believe we have none. Item 6, acceptance of late and urgent items, I believe we have none. Item 6, notices of motion, I believe we have none. Item 7, receiving or petitions or joint letters, we don't have any. Item 8, invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements, none for this meeting. Item 9, questions on notice, there are none. Item 10, Delegates Report.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Delegates Report, Star of the South. Victorian Government funding boost and Federal Government passing of the Offshore Infrastructure Bill 2021 for Australia's first offshore wind project. As a delegate, what a great couple of weeks it has been for the offshore wind farm projects that are exploring the opportunity to set up right here in Wellington. The first great news is the partnership agreement between the Victorian Government and the Star of the South, followed closely by the passing of the Offshore Electricity Infrastructure Bill 2021 through the federal government. Star of the South has entered into a $43.1 million partnership with the Victorian Government to progress key development activities and kickstart a local offshore wind industry. The project has welcomed the opportunity to work together with government to accelerate offshore wind development in Victoria. Offshore wind offers a large-scale energy solution and can deliver thousands of jobs right where and when they are needed most. The boost will allow Star of the South to continue investing in site investigations in Gippsland, including onshore and offshore geotechnical investigations, transmission design, industry development and ongoing community and stakeholder engagement. The partnership will see the Star of the South invest $23.6 million and the Victorian contribute $19.5 million to co-fund and pre-construction development activities, with knowledge being shared to support the creation of an exciting new offshore wind sector in Victoria. Offshore wind is one of the fastest growing energy technologies globally, offering consistent and reliable form of renewable power that complements onshore generation while creating new jobs and economic investments in regional areas. Located off Gippsland's south coast, Star of the South would harness Bass Strait strong offshore winds with up to 200 turbines in the area, 200 turbines in the area within the sea, connecting to the grid in the Latrobe Valley, one of the strongest points in the national electricity market. If the project is feasible and proceeds to construction, it would support Victoria to meet its emissions reduction targets by powering up to 1.2 million Victorian homes with clean energy. The project would provide jobs for energy workers with the potential to create 2,000 direct jobs and 200 ongoing local jobs once it's up and running. If built to its capacity, Star of the South would generate up to 2.2 gigawatts of clean energy, providing around 20% of Victoria's energy needs. The project is jointly owned by the leading renewable energy developer, Copenhagen Infrastructure Partners, and Australian founders, bringing global and local knowledge to the sector's development. Secondly, Star of the South welcomes the passing of the new federal legislation to enable offshore electricity projects to be built and operated in Australia. The Offshore Electricity Infrastructure Bill 2021 provides a critical legal framework and pathway for projects like the 2.2 gigawatt Star of the South to continue investing in project development. The project acknowledges the work and leadership of the Australian Government in progressing these important reforms and welcomes the strong cooperation and support across all parties in successfully passing the legislation. A clear regulatory framework sends a positive signal to the global offshore wind market to attract continued and new investment in this future industry, which is set to create thousands of jobs and boost regional economies. Offshore wind represents a strong economic opportunity for Australia, with modelling demonstrating an estimated 3,000 direct jobs and more than 10 billion in wider economic benefits resulting from the 2.2 gigawatt of offshore wind in Gippsland, primarily in regional Australia. Star of the South is the most progressive offshore wind project in Australia, located off the south coast of Gippsland in Victoria, right here in our Shire, Wellington. Certainly Star of the South are a gold standard as far as continuing its work on becoming the first offshore wind farm in Australia and its continued connection and dialogue with the community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks for the update, Councillor McKenzie. It's a very exciting project. Item 11.1, Assembly of Councillors. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Wood.
I move that Council note and receive the attached Assembly of Councillor records for the period 8 November 2021 to 28 November 2021.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Marr, I think, was the first of the four over there. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Wood.
Nothing further, thank you, Mayor.
Item 11.2, Appointment of Committees and Delegates for 21-22. Do I have a mover? Councillor Crosley?
Thank you, Mayor.
Microphone, please.
I said I'd forget how to do that. Too long. I move that councillors be formally appointed to council committee in accordance with the updated register as attached.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wood. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Crosley.
Thank you, Mayor. Each year we have a range of committees that both that are run and organised by council, but also community committees that councillors and council staff are engaged with. This is a very important component of the responsibility of councils to really get feedback and get to know what's happening, and also to move various projects forward. So each year we allocate various tasks and roles for councillors to do in these committees, and this is just formalising that list. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 11.3, Adoption of the CEO Employment and Remuneration Policy.
Thanks, Mayor. Just before councillors consider this item, it might be appropriate for me to leave the room, given it's about my conditions, and I might just ask a member of CMT to give me a text when I can come back in, rather than come and get me. It might be quicker.
Do I have someone to move
Yes, thank
Councillor
you.
Stevens.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council approve and adopt the new CEO employment and remuneration policy as attached and as required under Section 45 of the Local Government Act 2020.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Mackenzie. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As per many requirements under the Local Government Act 2020, and particularly under Section 45 of the Act, Mayor, the Council must develop, adopt and keep in force a CEO remuneration policy, or rather an employment and remuneration policy. The policy, of course, is set out in the agenda. It will form part of our Council policy manual, and of course we must review this, I believe, every 4 years, along with many other things. So, of course, it doesn't mean that there's any current change to the CEO's appointment. Council will recall that, of course, the CEO has had a new contract already adopted by the Council in Public Open Council, and his appointment will continue for another 5 years. So basically this is just in some ways just a formal process that we have to adopt, but it also includes one of the key things, and that is that the Council, of course the CEO is in the unfortunate position, most people only have one boss. The CEO has 9 councillors who he has to report to, and of course every year the Council's Performance Remuneration Committee, as part of this policy, has to review the CEO's performance and also discuss his key responsibility areas. I think there's a new thing that perhaps might scare us, Mr. Mayor, is I think the CEO gets to give us 360-degree feedback in the next review, so that'll be interesting. So you might all get a scorecard, councillors, something for us all to look forward to. But in any event, this is just a general policy. It's as I said, a public document which is set out in their policy manual, and something that we will adhere to over the life of the policy for 4 years. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. What's it, Mr. CEO to come back? Done.
David?
CM's a bit slow, isn't it? All thumbs.
Item 11.4, Wellington Shire Council, East Gippsland Shire Council ICT Panel of Providers Tender Evaluation Report. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation is that Council receive and note this report and all the attachments pertaining to the report, except the schedule of rates submitted by the preferred tenderers for the Information Communications and Technology Professional Services Panel of Providers, contract number 2022018 for a 4-year term. 3, Council authorise the Chief Executive Officer to execute such documents as are necessary to give effect to the arrangements of the Information Communications and Technology Professional Services Panel of Providers, contract number 2022-18, and 4, resolve that all attachments to this report and all discussions in relation to the attachments remain confidential.
And seconded by Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, that motion is carried. Before we go back to Councillor Tatterson, usually I would announce the successful tenderers, but this is a joint tender between Wellington Shire Council and East Gippsland Shire Council. It ensures that we secure appropriate and cost-effective skills and expertise to support ICT project and service delivery requirements for the next 4 years. There are a total of 29 tenderers, with 25 assessed and recommended to constitute a panel of providers which will cover the following ICT service categories: business analysis and application support, infrastructure and technical services, operational services, cyber security and ICT project management. So I won't, as I say, go through each of the ones that have been successful, but there is quite a few to meet our needs. Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. Just brief to note that this is a joint effort between Wellington Shire Council and East Gippsland Shire, as Wellington with the lead role. So these services are obviously critical to maintaining our networks, maintaining our computers and maintaining those things in East Gippsland also. And our local guys have done a terrific job in supporting our council, and they've certainly brought East Gippsland Shire into the 20th century. So they should be congratulated on that, and I'm sure a lot of these tenderers will assist them to continue to do such a great job.
Well said. Item 12.1, York Street Streetscape and Revitalisation Works in Central. Councillor Rossetti.
Thanks, Mayor. I move that Council adopt the recommendations contained in the attached confidential tender evaluation report of the Council meeting agenda for contract 2022-053, York Street Streetscape Revitalisation Works Central, and 2, the information contained in confidential attachment contract 2022-053, York Street Streetscape Revitalisation Works Central and designated confidential under Section 3.1 Confidential Information Local Government Act 2020 by the General Manager of Built National Environment on 5th November 2021 because it relates to the following grounds. G, private commercial information being information provided by a business, commercial or financial undertaking that if released would unreasonably expose the business, commercial or financial undertaking to disadvantage be designated confidential information in Section 3.1 Confidential Information in Local Government Act 2020, except that once this recommendation has been adopted, the name of the successful tenderer can be made public.
Well said. And do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Ripper. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Rossetti. Oh, sorry, yes, thank you. I'll announce a successful tender, which is Cranes Asphalting Bitumen Sealing.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillors, for supporting that recommendation, that motion. This is part of York Street Revitalisation, which is looking pretty amazing down the main street, being such an important thoroughfare through Shire. It's terrific to see all the work being done. This section is for the footpaths and curbing between McAllister and Stall Street. But if anyone's been near places like Carmody Tyres and seen the works going on through out in front of Lazaro's, that sort of section there, it's pretty amazing. But I did want to acknowledge the impact on those traders. While I know the contractors work their way around as much as they can, it certainly does impact on them there. And I just want to say thank you to those traders who, while there's it makes their business, I think, more attractive in the long run. In the short term, there certainly are some challenges with getting people in and out of their businesses there.
No, certainly.
But when you want to pass and have a look at the change between what was there before and what's there now, it's pretty amazing. And, I think all credit to those contractors, and of course to the people who make it happen, including Darren Chester through his assistants and the ratepayers as well.
Thank you. Item 12.2, unused road licence, Pooleys Road and Spencer's Road sale. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Marr.
I move that Council, pursuant to Section 400 of the Land Act 1958, give notice that government roads north of Crown Allotment 31 and 30, northwest of Crown Allotment 11, Section A2, and east of Crown Allotment 6, Part 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11, Section A2 in the parish of Sale are not required for public traffic and are therefore unused roads.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wood. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Marr.
With regard to this matter, the property owner is seeking to obtain an unused road grazing licence and therefore was seeking confirmation that the government roads are no longer required for public traffic. Both sections of the road are not maintained by council. The section of Pooleys Road is currently fenced within the applicant's farm, and the other on Spencer's Road is regularly closed for roadside grazing. So there shouldn't be any community impact, and the abutting neighbour on Spencer's Road has also provided written consent in support of this. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. Item 12.3, Waste Infrastructure Reserve Funds. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that 1, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to make the necessary budget adjustments to transfer funds from Council Waste Infrastructure Reserve in accordance with the attached confidential business case and independent review to enable the procurement of plant/fleet required to transition Wellington Shire Council landfills at Kilmany and Maffra to a direct managed service on the 1st of July 2022, and 2. Delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer to procure the required landfill compaction machine in accordance with the attached confidential business case and independent review, to transfer Wellington Shire Council landfills at Kilmany and Maffra to a direct managed service on 1 July 2022. 3. The information contained in Attachment 1, Landfill Management, Business Case, and Attachment 2, Landfill Management Independent Review, and Design confidential under Section 3, 1. Confidential information of the Local Government Act 2020 by the General Manager Build and Natural Environment on the 29th of November 2021, because it relates to the following grounds. G. Private commercial information being information provided by a business, commercial or financial undertaking that, if released, would unreasonably expose the business, commercial or financial undertaking to disadvantage.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Nothing further? Thank you. And I have a conflict as stated for the next item, 12.4, a Section 128 material interest. So I'm going to hand over to the Deputy Mayor to run that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Would you like to see to SMS you or show the
I think you can just come and get me more quicker. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillors. We have President of the Chamber, Mr Jim King, President of the Maffra Menchie, who would like to provide an overview of the vision for a community hub in Maffra. To that extent, I'd like to ask Mr King to come forward to provide his presentation to Council.
Thank you.
Mr King, thank you for your attendance. You have the floor for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Councillors and Council Officers. On the 16th of February, Council allocated the southern portion of the RV site in Maffra to enable a development to take place for the Maffra Men's Shed and other community groups within Maffra. Since then, we've been trying very hard to raise money to get the project done. Part of the council agreement that we had was that council wouldn't provide any council-related funds to the project. We've entered into a licence agreement with council between the state government, council and the Maffra Men's Shed as a licensee, and that licence agreement was signed some time ago. We've also advised Gippsland Water, who we currently occupy their premises at the moment, that these developments have taken place, and we've asked them for their longest end date for our current tenure of that building, which is 31/12/22. So we have to be out by 31/12/22 at the moment, 12 months' time. We noticed under the LR and CIP program that there's a range of projects that have been proposed by council to allocate to community facilities. And I've gone through and read those particular projects, done a bit of research, looked at your annual report details, etc., and come up with a list of queries about some of those projects. To my mind, some of those projects are current projects of council. They do not meet the guidelines that are stipulated under LRCI, in that projects should be relatively new projects, additional projects, rather than ongoing projects. And there's a few queries about those as to whether they are infrastructure projects or just administrative type projects. I've given you a list of the questions I'm proposing, and I've given out those examples, which you all should have a copy of, I hope. There's an additional one on that as well, which is the Stratford Recreation Reserve. And you're proposing to allocate $910,000 to that project, on top of the $1.1 million that was allocated some 2 years ago through a sports grant, headed council funding. I went to the club last night and had a look. The grant that you're proposing is to upgrade the club rooms. To me, the structure seems fairly complete. All the work that's been done with the $1.1 million is complete. It's either side of the proposal that's been put before council now. If you look through the windows of the club rooms, the bar and everything seems to be all okay. And I personally could see that 910 grand could be spent a little bit better in other areas. An area where a project like this, that the Maffra Man Shed and the other community groups are proposing, you'd get a better return for your dollar in this new infrastructure. There's not current infrastructure being upgraded. So we've gone through and looked at that, and I just think I'm proposing the council defer their decision today to approve those LR and CI program grants until a review's taken place and until the Mayor and the council officers that are coming out to visit our shed tomorrow can see what we're up against, can see the operation of our shed, and come back to council with, hopefully, a recommendation that you'll give us some funds to get this important project underway. We have final plans for the project. We have a planning permit issued by council. The project is virtually shovel ready. All we need is money to do it. We have an $80,000 grant through the state government, but that is conditional upon us raising the other money and being able to prove that we have the rest of the money. And that's proving fairly difficult. The broader Building Better Regions Fund, I believe, will be opening up soon, but we're very competitive because we're competing against councils, etc., and other big groups. We're a totally voluntary group. We've got no people writing funding applications for us. We rely on basically me to do these applications. So I'm virtually pleading with council. If you want this project to go ahead in Maffra, you've given us a planning permit, you give us the land. We need your assistance. We've got 12 months to get this project up and running. If we don't do it by then, this shed will close. I'll guarantee you, this shed will be closing. So, yeah. There's a letter I got from the Mayor, and I don't want to hang it on any of the councillors, far from it, but I've been writing to council for quite a while about this, and David Morecambe could go through and verify this. The Mayor wrote about the allocation of the land, and the previous Mayor suggested we look at another site to transfer all our gear in while we go through and create this utopia development. If you come down and have a look at our shed, you will see we have a vast amount of equipment. We've got a vast amount of infrastructure within our shed at the moment. It's not easily moved. It's not easily relocated by a group of 65 to 70-year-old blokes. A lot of those guys with infirmities and health issues. In the letter that I got from the Mayor, he said that I understand the council officers and our Northern Ward councillors have met with you and relevant community groups to discuss the MCGAH project. I'm sorry, council, that is incorrect. Since February 16th, when you approved the issue of the allocation of this land, we have heard from no councillors. No one's been out to look at our shed. No one's been out to even question how we're going. We've received no assistance in fund writing applications, and we've basically been left on our own. Now, if that's the way council runs, then I, for one, as a ratepayer, I'm being misled. I could go on about the annual report. I could go on about some of the projects in there and all that sort of thing. But you've got my notes. You've got the guidelines of the LRCP, CIP. You've got my comments. You've got the plan. All I need now is your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King.
And if I can just add to that, for Mr King's benefit, Deputy Mayor, Council did receive a copy. You were unsure about whether they had of those questions you raised, and the Mayor and others will be coming to visit you tomorrow, regardless of the decision that's made today, and respond to those questions, Mr King.
You're running the meeting, you've got to run this next bit. So we call someone to move the motion, so we need to do it. It's on the screen. Just call someone to move the motion.
Could I have someone to move the motion?
Put your microphone on.
I'm more than happy to move the
Councillor
motion. I move that Council 1 note that funding has been allocated to Wellington Shire Council by the Federal Government under the Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program, Round 3, for expenditure between the 1st of January 2022 and 30th of June 2023. And 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to finalise agreements and perform the necessary budget adjustments to allocate this local roads and community infrastructure program round 3 funding to the projects detailed in attachment 1.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Crosley. Councillor Marr.
Does anyone oppose?
Sorry. Apologise. Is the motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Now, with regard to this matter, as in the motion, the federal government announced $6.31 million of funding support in its round 3 of local government and community infrastructure program, also known as the LCRIP. And the funding is available as of the 1st of January 2022 and must be expended by the 30th of June 2023. It has been deemed that the projects are additional to current capital works, the current capital works program, and they are found at attachment 1. There's a variety of programs and proposals within this, and I think that there will be a lot of very happy committees out there with regard to the works that have been approved, and there's various, but I know, having visited the Yarram Regent Theatre only last week, they would certainly be more than happy to see that their sound system upgrade has been included in this, of a total of $95,000. The Hayfield Memorial Hall, that we know does an amazing job with their committee. They're having their LED lights replaced at a cost of totaling $17,000, of which the LCRIP is $16,000. The Memorial Park in Stratford is having their toilet replaced. Their toilets replaced at a cost of $250,000. And I know that the Seaspray pump track, that councillors visited Seaspray earlier this year and heard from a very passionate committee that really wanted to see something happen for their youth, as well as the children that visit the caravan park over summer, and I think that they will also be very happy with the development of that pump track. I recommend everyone to have a look at the list, and they will all certainly be quite happy to see the inclusions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marr. Bring back the Mayor to the chamber, please.
Okay, item 12.5. Direct Managed Facilities Cleaning Services and Panel Tender 2022-041. Do I sign about? Councillor Crosley.
I think I'm switched on. Yes. Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council 1 receives and considers this report and all attachments pertaining to this report. 2, accepts the schedule of rates for Direct Management Facilities Cleaning Services 2021 to 2023 for a 2-year term with 1 extension option of 12 months to be made available solely at Council's discretion, as outlined in the confidential attachment and as submitted by Alpha Corporate Property Services Proprietary Limited, BG Corporate Services, CNA Cleaning Services Proprietary Limited, Geared Up Cleaners, Ian Freeman Cleaning and Maintenance, KC Facilities Services Proprietary Limited, Menzies International Proprietary Limited, MN Group Vic Proprietary Limited, Nuga Property Services Proprietary Limited, OITA Facilities Management Proprietary Limited, Peopleworks Cleaning Services Proprietary Limited, and Pickwork Group Proprietary Limited. I need a drink after that. And 3, the information contained in the confidential attachment contract 2022-041, Tender Evaluation, Direct Management Facilities Cleaning Services 2021-2023. Schedule of rates are designated as confidential under Section 3, brackets 1, Confidential Information of the Local Government Act 2022, and available. As the indulgement of the Mayor, just take the rest as read.
No problems, you did a good job. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Stevens. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Crosley.
It's just pretty obvious there. It's just going to make it an easier and appropriate way to have a list of preferred providers to provide those services, so the services operate smoothly.
Thank you. Item 12.6, Place Names Committee. Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor. The Place Names Committee minutes, I'd like to move the Council receive and note the minutes of the Place Name Committee meeting held on 9th November 2021.
Thank you. Would I have a seconder? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed?
Oh, hang on.
Would you like to oppose that motion, Councillor Stevens? No one's opposing that motion? If not, carried.
Never oppose the minutes of the Place Names Committee.
Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
I think I just want to leave the room.
The minutes are self-explanatory, but I just did want to mention the place and feature naming policy draft. While we've just received those and noted them, they'll be coming up to Council in a couple of weeks' time as part of the policy document review that we do for us to actually hopefully adopt them. Councillors be aware that there's been many times that Council has been requested to name infrastructure, locations, buildings, sporting ovals, all sorts of things with different names for people who might indeed have contributed. Perhaps they've been recently deceased or unwell, all sorts of reasons for that coming up. But what's typically happened is we've been very ad hoc with the responses to those because we haven't had a policy. This policy is a crack at actually getting something transparent in there so the community can understand what steps we will take when they request that a council asset or a feature of a sporting field, etc., be named. So this will be somewhere where I think we were a bit latent for many years, and presume it comes to council and is adopted next meeting. I think it'll be a great outcome.
Yes.
And another terrific outcome from the hard-working Place Name Committee.
Item 13.1, Funding Plan for Aqua Energy Redevelopment Project. I'll sign to move that. Councillor Rossetti.
Yeah, I move that council approve the revised Aqua Energy Redevelopment concept design and funding strategy as listed at attachment 1 of this report. What do I say in? But that's fine.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Councillor Rossetti.
Yeah, sure. Just to correct that grammar, I didn't say that council. Sorry, the council approved. We'll get rid of 2 between council approved. Thanks. Apologies for that, Mayor. This is very exciting to see work progressing on us updating Aqua Energy, the pool. Indeed, 50 years old. I remember it as a youngster, and I don't remember it as an oldster, as some others might, but I remember it as a youngster being built. The councils will recall that the updating of Aqua Energy pool, the indoor pool, has been on the cards since the times of the last council. This council decided that they'd like to review it a little bit to see whether they can get more lanes into the existing footprint, which we're really hopeful we can get a really good outcome there. So it's terrific to see that progressing. We're obviously having lots of conversations with stakeholders, user groups, and indeed the general public. And this is just the next stage of it. So looking forward to the Mayor not only jumping into pools full of rubber things, but actually being able to jump in and show the new swimming pool opening maybe in a few years' time.
Thanks, you, Councillor Rossetti. I don't own budgie smugglers, but I might have to invest in some for that occurrence. We'll move on to further gallery and online comments. Mr. CEO.
Yes, Mayor. We actually do have a comment in our online, and it's from Mr. Alan Hayward of Pissendale, and it's in relation to Mr. Hayward has previously raised the issue of Foster Street and its width and its ability to handle the existing loads of traffic. Mr Haywood is, and I'm paraphrasing his letter, Mayor, just to be brief, but I have just provided all councillors with a copy of that, so Mr Haywood will know that you'll all get a copy of that. And really just talking about if someone parks on Foster Street, and presumably, I think he's talking about the area adjacent to Lake Guthrie, it's very difficult for cars to get around. They have to stop, and now believes there's more traffic on Foster Street. And he finishes with, let's get this fixed, the road needs to be widened. And his question is, does the Shire think that this situation is still satisfactory in 2021? So we'll draft up a response for that, Mayor, from you to Mr Haywood within the next 7 days.
Thank you very much. Now I'll declare the meeting closed with no further business at 3:40 p.m. Thank you, everyone.